between 30 and 40% of performance. And when it was patched here, hello, my name is Tom Stiles, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show number 248. Well, I think I have a fail. I had set up this morning to try to show you something, and I think I have developed a problem. I tried to quickly solve it with no luck. So anyway, let's take this opportunity to take this problem and talk about it. Okay? Well, my problem is I finally found me a switch, an antenna switch, so that I can switch between two different radios when I'm testing them. And if we go over here just for a second, I can try to show you. Hold on, we're going for a ride. Don't get dizzy. Okay, there's the switch right there. There's the antenna coming in, and there's two outputs going out to these two radios. And here's the big switch between the two radios. So I could tune the radios to the same frequency and switch to between these two radios to my external antenna and get a comparison. So that was the big plan. Let's go back down here. Sorry for the noise there. So that was the big plan I set up this morning, and sure enough, when I got it set up, I developed a hum, an AC hum, when I connected the external antenna to this Tecsun PL-880. And it's originating from this radio, because when I disconnect the cable that goes between this radio and the switch, the hum goes away. So I've somehow developed a ground loop. I think it's a ground loop, which means I've got the radios are not all grounded at the same point, so they're creating a loop, and that loop is causing an AC hum. Now, I tried a couple of things to investigate the problem. I am running this radio off an AC adapter. It's not running off of batteries. So I disconnected the AC adapter. I unplugged the AC adapter. Didn't fix it. I turned all the lights off in the room, turned the monitor off. Didn't fix it. I don't know where the actual AC is coming from. I don't have it in this radio, but I've got it in this radio. And I only have it when this radio goes through the switch to the antenna, and also that switch is connected to this radio. If I disconnect this radio from the switch, the hum is gone in this radio. I've tried different cables. I tried swapping the cables. I tried a third cable. Didn't help it. I don't know where the hum is coming from. I've had this connection, I set this up actually yesterday, and I didn't have a problem. So I don't know what's caused it. I'm going to have to try to figure it out. If you got any ideas of what I've done wrong here and how I can fix it, you know, I could bring in an external ground and maybe ground this radio and externally and see if that would fix it. But like I say, even when I didn't have this connected to an AC source, I still got the hum in this radio, the 880. Okay, now the other thing I noticed when I'm hooking this up is, and I'm going to disconnect it. Well, let me illustrate the problem. Okay, so we're going to turn this guy on, the 880. And it's got a bad hum. And if I've got it connected to the external antenna through the switch right now. If I switch it, the hum, well, that's different. The hum went away. That it kind of implies that maybe I've got a hum coming in through the antenna. Now, it's 6:48 in the morning, and it's matter of fact, it's foggy out. And so I could have some problems going wrong with my antenna due to that moisture that's in the air. I've had it happen before. But let me just show you this. I'm going to turn this off, this radio off, and this one's on. And now what I had just done is I had switched the antenna, the external antenna, from this radio to that radio, and the hum went away, and of course the signal went away. Now I've got the external antenna through the switch to this radio, and I'll turn the volume up. And now it didn't before, but now this radio has some hum in it. So somehow in my setup right this moment, I've got AC hum in my system, and I got to figure out how to get rid of it. But what's the price? Now let me try one more thing before I give up here. Is I'm going to disconnect this radio from the switch. So I'm going to go over to the switch, and I'm going to take that cable that goes to the 750 off. Okay, I disconnected that. I'm going to turn that radio off, and I'm going to turn this radio back on. And we don't have any hum because I haven't switched. 77.4 degrees Fahrenheit. The outdoor temperature is 77.3 degrees Fahrenheit. I always get a weather report right during the recording. Okay, so we haven't switched back via the switch to the external antenna yet. So I turn this volume up. There's no station, no hum, no nothing. So I'm going to switch.
Joseph.
Hum is gone.
And he was just.
And of course, the signal goes way up because it got the external antenna. Now I'm going to temporarily connect the other radio. I won't switch to that radio, but I'll connect it to the switch.
And he was just a natural-born naturalist. So, and he didn't even have a pair of binoculars. So when I went,
there's the hum.
I gave him my little Nikon binoculars.
Not as bad. Let me tighten it up. It's there. Maybe can't, discern it. Let me turn this down. Maybe can't discern it with my webcam audio. But it's there, and it's definitely there, and it's annoying. So, I'm going to continue to experiment with this as it dries out outside and see if this problem goes away. Now, while we're here, let me show you some other things that I kind of noticed that I should have known. Well, I knew, but I just forgot about, and I didn't tell you about, is you got to be really careful on these external antenna jacks, especially this kind with the 1/8 inch jack here, 1/8 inch plug in this case. I can't see it there too well. 8 inch plug. Got to be careful because here I've got this big fat connector, the PL-880 connector, and then I got this adapter, and then I got the cable, and this presents a lot of weight that's pulling on that external connector on the radio, which isn't that strong. So you got to be careful about that, because if you break that connector on the radio, if you break that, either internal or external or both, you got a serious problem. Now you just lost that connection. So one thing, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm using much smaller diameter cable going to this adapter and this radio to reduce the weight. That helps a little bit. But I still got this big fat connector. Now ideally what I would have is, I'll show the adapter. I'll try to show you the adapter. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so here's the all the weight, and as you can see, if I can get off and get my hand, this adapter, that adapter is pretty mammoth all itself, and then you got this connector. So ideally, I would not be using a cable with this type of connector and then having to use the adapter. I would not do that. I would have a cable with this kind of connector on the end, and that would eliminate a lot of weight a lot of tugging on the radio. So I need to get off my derriere and order a short cable with the proper connector. And what that means is on the other end, I'll have this type of connector because that's what the switch wants. And on this end that goes to the radio, I would have not an adapter, but I would have actually that kind of connector right there without all this extra weight. So that's what I need to do. The other thing is, another observation is, let me get this over out of the way, and that's also true of, and I can zoom in a little more, of this connection right here. Again, the Grundig 750 wants or has a B and C connector on it. So I'm having to use an adapter again. So ideally what I would do is I would buy a cable that had, and I'll show you, I'll just use this one for an example, that would have on one end, in this case, on one end it would have this connector to connect to the, over here, to the switch, and the switch wants those kinds of connectors. So I need that kind of connector on the switch, and then on the other end I would have a B and C that would hook directly to the 750 with no adapters. Again, taking the weight off the radio connector. Now, as you can see back there, this is a heavy cable. It just happens to be, I was looking for some short cables and I had these two and that was it. So I put the heavier one over there that I don't plan on moving around too much because the 750 is pretty stable, and then I use the smaller one cable on this guy because he's basically portable and I'm moving him around. Now, in the ideal situation is I could take that radio out and put another radio in and compare those two, and even not have the 750 in there as the comparing radio. I could have, for instance, I could compare the Tecsun 660 and 880 and use the same external antenna, and by using the switch I could easily switch back and forth and not have to plug and unplug, which is what I've been doing in the past. So I got the switch, I got that problem solved. I need to get the proper cables already molded, have the the right connector for the radio on the end, and that will certainly help things. And since this is going to be such a short run between the switch and the radio, I can use this lighter coax. I don't have to use the RG8, which is really stiff. I use the lighter stuff, more flexible and less weight. So that's another thing I need to do. So I need to do a little shopping here and get the proper cables. The other thing I'll mention quickly, and I'll get it unplugged so I can show you a little better, is the switch itself. Okay, here's a switch that I had downstairs in my shop. This is a very common switch. Several people sell this and they'll put their little logo on there. This has the MFJ logo. It's a decent switch, and it's not the best, but it's good. It's a good switch, and it's heavy. It's real heavy, and the switching mechanism is very important, especially if you're using it on a transmitter. Now we're just doing reception here, so it's not as critical. But a couple of things that will drive the price of these switches up, and therefore the quality up, is the contacts that are inside the switch, the housing. This housing is heavy metal, and see this little guy here in it. If it was loose it would rotate, but it's not loose. This is for connecting a ground to the case, which is what you really want to do. That's ideal. That might eliminate my hum problem. So the housing and how it's built, how it isolates one radio from another electrically, that's important. The connectors, the quality of connectors, that's important. And like I say, this is This is from MFJ. You can also get this on Amazon. Probably not from MFJ, but MFJ does sell some things on Amazon. But this runs about $40 for this switch. Now, you can get much lower quality switches that are very simple switches for around $10. And they might be okay for listening. They wouldn't be good for transmitting, because the other thing it has to do when you're transmitting is handle the power that you're putting out through your antenna. So you might get away with a $10 one, but I wouldn't go too cheap. Even $10 is a little too cheap. And the thing is, depending on how many times you have to switch this back and forth, that contact could wear out on the cheaper antenna switches. There was something else, some other characteristics I was going to mention about the switches. Oh, there are also switches, and I have one that looks like this, but it actually has 3 positions. And the center position is to disconnect both radios and ground the antenna so that the antenna is grounded. So if it gets an electrical pulse on it, it doesn't, the idea is that it doesn't induce that pulse into your radio. So what you would do is normally you would leave your antenna switch in the ground position when you're not using either radio, and then when you turn on one of your radios, you'd switch to the proper radio. So that's another option. This one does not have that option. That's another option you can get on these type of switches. And you can get these switches that will connect 2, 3, 5, 8 different radios at one time, and of course the price goes up. I have some that will connect, I think, 5 radios, but they are the type that they don't have a flat base like this, so they have to be mounted to something. So they have to be mounted in a chassis or something, because the bottom is, in one case the bottom is not, well, both cases, the 2 that I have, the bottom is not flat, so you have to mount them to something to hold them. So that's why I'm using the simple one. I would prefer to have a 3-prong one. You can get, there's one that I have somewhere that has 4 inputs and 1 output, and it's got a flat base, so you can just set it down on your desk or stick it on your wall, whatever. So anyway, I kind of digressed here in that I was going to show you some testing comparing the 2 radios using the switch, but I ran into this problem. So maybe I salvage this particular video by telling you a little bit about switches. Like I say, you can get these switches from Amazon. The Universal Radio website I showed you when I was showing you connectors, they have a much better selection. And finally, MFJ also sells a number of these type switches, not just this one. So if you have any questions, please send me an email or leave a comment. I'd appreciate it. If you enjoyed this show, please give me a thumbs up. That helps me know providing information that's useful. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We are getting very close to 1,500 subscribers. And when we get 1,500 subscribers, we're going to have a giveaway. My memory's not very good, so I don't remember what we're giving away, but we're giving up something really good. So that's the show for today. Thanks for watching. Sorry I couldn't do the testing. Maybe later on, when whatever that ground noise is goes away, I can do the comparison testing. Bye-bye.